So I did an episode a while back, episode 32. It's called Fuck Motivation, You Need Momentum. And I wanted to revisit that topic because I've lost momentum and gained it back multiple times since that episode. And it's the same shit every single time. So I wanted to just sort of streamline some shit about my process for that because I feel like it's the answer for a lot of things when you're stuck. So I'm just going to jump into it. I kind of wrote some pretty short bullet points. I'm going to try to keep this quick and actionable with a minimal amount of backstory. But all right, let's get it going. So before we get into it, I just want to list some things just to get your head around it. Like you can lose momentum in pretty much any area of your life, and all of this stuff can apply to that. So like you could lose momentum in your business, even on like, say, your social media platforms. If you're trying to build an audience, you can lose it in your graffiti. I lose momentum in graffiti all the time because I have lots of different things I'm trying to do. And a lot of times graffiti takes a little bit of a back seat. You can lose it in health and fitness. That happens to me. Personal development and your reading, all of these kind of things. So it's one thing, like you could find yourself just moving forward, pushing forward, and everything's kind of moving along. And then all of a sudden something happens. Maybe you get sick or injured or something that causes you to take some time away from the things that you're trying to build. And then you find yourself, at least this, I'm speaking for me, but I would imagine a lot of people have this same shit. So I'll find myself in a position where I've lost my momentum, and the hardest thing to do is to start again. And so, when I was thinking about this topic again and I was kind of building it back up, I thought about this thing that happened. I think I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I'll go over it real quick. It was around the year 2020, or I'm sorry, not 2020. It was like the year 2000 or somewhere around there, 2001 maybe. I was in college, had a project due the next day. We had to come up with a bunch of different ideas for a movie poster. And I remember just sitting there trying to come up with ideas of what to make. And I couldn't think of anything. And the more that I tried to think of anything, the more stressed out I became because, the time is ticking and it's like every minute, every hour that I can't just start because I don't have any ideas. I'm like, I don't have any ideas. I don't know what to make. I decided to go next door. There was a really well-known graphic designer named Ed Fella. He had an office next door. I thought maybe I'll ask Ed what his advice is. And I pretty much told him what I told you. I couldn't come up with anything. I was getting all stressed out. And he said, I'm kind of paraphrasing because this was over 20 years ago or 20-ish. I don't remember. Yeah, over 20 years ago. Either way. What I remember him saying is, well, stop thinking about what to make and just start making things. And I was like, well, what do I make? He's like, just make anything. It doesn't even have to relate. It doesn't have to have anything to do with the topic. The idea of making things is going to start generating ideas. And then even if it doesn't, you can start by just making anything that you like and just get the process of making things. And then you can start assigning meaning to it and see if you can kind of, create some ideas out of that. And basically what he was getting at is like, if you're just sitting around waiting for ideas to come, they may never come. You may just be sitting there stressed out and you may never get those ideas. But if you start making and start just doing things, that starts to build momentum. That starts to create more opportunities to generate ideas instead of waiting for them to sort of magically, just, I don't even know what I was trying to do, just kind of come into your head out of nowhere. But like if you're in the process of making things and in the process of doing things, then more ideas are going to come. And as you start building more momentum, it's easier to keep it going. So that's just something in terms of art. And there's writers that say, they have a deadline. A lot of times I've read that writers will just sit down and start writing stuff, even if it's not really on the subject that they're doing. Because if you think about it, you're sitting there trying to come up with what you should do instead of actively doing something. I would think you have a much less chance of actually building any kind of, any kind of processes or anything that's going to allow you to actually generate ideas. And so one of the things that I find, and this happens all the time, when I fall off of something, the further away you get from whatever it is that you had, like say, say you're on a good thing when you're working out, or let's just keep it on graffiti. Like let's say you have that momentum and you're out there every weekend or whatever time frame that you're trying to do to maintain whatever it is you're trying to do in the graph culture. Yeah, apply that to anything. But you know how it is, like the more you're doing it and it's kind of you're consistently going out and doing whatever it is that you want to do, you'll find it easier to maintain that because you've built up momentum for that, So, but then you sort of like say, oh, you know what? I'm not going to paint this weekend. This is how it works for me. I'm not going to paint this weekend, even though like I have some momentum built up. I decide not to paint this weekend. Next weekend, I don't really feel like doing it. The further away I get, the harder it is to get myself to do it. Somebody will say, hey, I got a wall. Do you want to come and paint? And a lot of times I'll just be like, I really want a piece of mine to exist out in the world, but like I've lost all this momentum. I don't actually want to do the thing. I don't want to get up early. I don't want to, all of this stuff. My brain starts going into all that shit. Like I got to pick colors and all this stuff. Like it's stupid, but it's like the further away I get, the harder it is. It's the same thing with fitness. You can apply this to literally anything, that the further away you get, the harder it is to get yourself to start again. But the good news is, and I know this works for people. The good news is that the process is very simple to get going again. And it's just to start. And it almost feels stupid to say it because it seems so obvious, but I find myself losing my momentum all the time. And I sort of forget that very simple concept that it's just all about starting. And for me, it's almost like I completely forget about that. And so now I'm trying to remind myself of this when I do lose my momentum. It's just like going into it knowing that the process of starting is automatically setting you in the right path. So one of the things that I like to think about, and I can't remember what book I read this in, but they were describing how an old well pump works. So it's like you got to pump this thing. It's a manual thing. So you're pumping this handle a bunch of times. You're trying to pull the water up this long pipe, and you're pumping and pumping and pumping. No water's coming out, and you keep going and keep going and keep going. And then finally the water starts coming out. You got to keep pumping to keep the water coming out. But then as the water flow gains momentum, you don't have to pump as much. You can just pump enough to keep the water going. And I find it exactly the same in literally every aspect of my life. So I've recently gotten to the point where, I was kind of getting off on my fitness a little bit. I wasn't working out as much as I should. And I was eating healthy, but, I was like sneaking in a little too much shit that I shouldn't, And so the further down that path I got, the more momentum I lost. And then I had a certain start date that I needed to start phase 3 of the Live Hard program. And so as that day is coming up, I'm kind of getting excited because I'm like, I'm going to get my momentum back, even though like I didn't have to wait for that. I mean, it was just sort of head games that I was playing with myself. But, knowing that it was coming, I was like, I'm going to have to do this anyway, because that's how the program is set up. You have to start it on a certain day. It has to end when you first did 75 Hard. It's a year-long program. Look into it. I've talked about it a bunch of times. But anyway, so like I knew I was going to have to do that if I wanted to complete the whole year-long program. And so now I think I'm on day 9 and my momentum's like 100% back. Like it didn't even really take that long. I felt like I already had it back like on day 2 or day 3. The first couple days was kind of like, fuck, 2 45-minute workouts, gallon of water. And this program, this phase it's ridiculous how many things there are. Look up phase 3 of the Live Hard program. There's just so many things you have to do in the day. And then on top of that, I'm trying to do all of these things to move my business forward. But the crazy thing is like when you get momentum in one area, especially an area like health and fitness and mindset and that kind of shit, that spills over into all this other stuff. So now all of these things are going and everything's kind of building back up. And, that's spilling over into my business. I'm doing a lot better there too. And all these kind of things are starting to really come together. So as I already mentioned, like the further away you get, the harder it is to start. But it's the one thing that I need to always remind myself, and maybe this can be something you can remind yourself as well, is that although that whole idea that, it's almost like the last thing you want to do is start whatever it is. Just know that it's going to get way easier. I mean, it's going to get way easier to continue, but if you're really pushing yourself, you're pushing yourself hard. So like the stuff you're going to do is not easy, but after a while, it starts becoming like, this is what I have to do. Like right now I'm in like full momentum mode, like with my fitness, with my business, with my relationship, all of these things. So I feel like it's almost not an option. So there's like little things in the back of my mind that are kind of pulling me towards laziness. You know, like I've mentioned it before, like I would love to like waste multiple days just sitting around doing jack shit, playing video games. Like that sounds awesome to me, to my lazy side. You know, I'm like, fuck, that'd be nice. Like I don't have to worry about anything. All I do is just sit around and play video games, watch TV, just fucking do nothing. The problem is that shit isn't easy either, because like in the back of my mind, the whole time I'm doing stuff like that is I know I should be doing other things to move my life forward. And I'm not saying like you should never take a break and all this kind of stuff. Like for me, it's just the more I lose that momentum, the harder it is for me to get back on it. So right now when I have it and like, you know, the water's flowing and I all I have to do is just get up every day and hit my critical tasks every day, and the water just keeps flowing and it keeps flowing. I get my workouts in, I drink my water, I do all my tasks, all this kind of shit. It's not as hard as it was when I first started trying to get everything ramped up. Now that it's all ramped up, it's like, this is just what I do. I wake up every day and this is what I do. So it's the same shit. I feel like really strongly that you can apply this to anything. If you're feeling in that state of lack of momentum, or you're just not feeling like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, the only real action step that I have is just to find the smallest task or the smallest thing you can do to get started, and just start doing that and just continue doing that. Even if it's the last thing you want to do. If you're, I don't know. I mean, for me, it could be a lot of things. Like it could be exercise, whatever it is, just find something small, start doing it, and keep doing it every single day. And as you start to feel that momentum build up, just keep pushing it a little further, a little further, a little further. I swear, next thing you know, the momentum will be built up and you'll be fucking moving full steam ahead. It'll work. All right. Good.
Appreciate each and every one of you guys who are supporting the cause and continue to spread the love. And yeah, stay up.